We're going to start. It's about, I've got about 7 minutes after 7 on Monday, the 24th of July. This is the Jamaica Selectboard meeting for the 24th of July. I'm going to modify the minutes a little bit and cover the easy ones first because our scribe isn't here yet. So, let's see how that works out. We're going to call it 7:07. Did you want to just go ahead and put down the big pieces at the time and start this up? We got a pretty full schedule tonight. But are there any late additions to the agenda that should be added?
Yes.
What's that?
I'd like to include my original proposal for items 12 and 13 where I said with a possible vote.
I'm sorry, how is that different than what I have?
Well, you didn't include the statement with a possible vote. And since you made the point that a vote isn't valid unless it's warned, I'd like to see that in the agenda. Do you want me to read the original that I proposed?
Not necessary. At the end of number 12, add with a possible vote.
Yes, and same on number 13.
After your trip up and go,
As an aside, the chair will not tolerate any references to growing hair.
Oh, really?
All right.
Offense to that?
I wear a hat if you have.
We have number 2, approve the minutes of the July 10th select board meeting. Let's put that on hold for right now. Number 3, approve the timesheets for town office, solicitors, highway, and transfer station. We usually do that at the end of the session, just to make it easier on the audience. Sign the select board orders, we'll do also that at the end of the session. Number 5 is a report from the town attorney that our current charter addresses conflict of interest adequately, and therefore there is no need for a new policy. For those of you following at home, and those of you in the audience, we had a discussion about the need for a conflict of interest. We submitted to this attorney, Paul Gillies, and he sent us his opinion that our charter adequately covers it. And he did say that if we wanted to get into more detail, we could do a ordinance, but that we're adequately covered right now for that issue. Number 6, Planning Commission regarding the water and wastewater section of the town plan. I will turn that over to our Planning Commission person. And thank you for that, for sending us all that stuff. I hope those of you guys had a chance to read. She sent a portion of the water. And let me see if I can get it out while you're talking. Oh, come on, fingers crossed. And this is the potable water supply and wastewater section, is that correct?
Yes.
Yes, Ben, you have the floor.
Thank you. I was wondering if you guys had a chance to.
Before you go, just for the camera, identify yourself.
Hi, I'm Veda Bassett from the Planning Commission. Did you have any comments or questions about this section that we've revised?
I have
in
one.
the town plan.
I have one question, if I might. On page 2, in the paragraph starting not having water, town water, cause of visit, towards halfway down, it says, there are areas, including the village center, that could have levels of lead, arsenic, and uranium, and many residents may be unaware of the current quality of their water. That's a little, do we have any evidence of this? Do we have any kind of testing that says that? We should be concerned about the lead, arsenic, and uranium?
I had to research that in the post office building, and I had to ameliorate the situation somewhat because there was.
Mm-hmm. Do we have any, now, as far as what the Planning Commission has, he's got his anecdotal experience. Do you guys have anything formal?
Well, I had a test.
Well, could you let her answer?
I will look into it. I know we had a study done. I don't know if it came from that study or not.
Okay. I guess I'm concerned about suggesting that that may be the case without some pretty solid evidence, because it's gonna look, it looks like you've got a water problem.
I mean, it previously was in the town plan, but the
So-
question It previously was in the town plan, that almost similar wording, but
Yeah.
that same question could have been asked of that too, and
Sure.
I don't know the answer.
We don't know the answer.
Well, there could be tests done.
Mhm.
That could be anywhere,
It's
anywhere.
Right, and in practicality, it could be, yeah.
Many years ago, when I was on the planning commission, there was a study done 4 years prior to that. Elaine Beckworth could probably vouch for it. It was done on Ball Mountain Brook
Mhm.
and possible wastewater from the residents along Main Street and Factory Street contaminated that brook. There was a study, but I mean, you would have to do more of an up-to-date study.
And did it confirm that there was or there wasn't?
There was sections there, they were high levels of contaminants.
I believe that was for E. coli.
Yeah, it was.
That's the one I remember reading, yeah. They measured it up above the town and down below the town, and they decided that we were in fact feeding E. coli at some level. I don't remember seeing what the acceptable level limits were. Because it depends if it's your water or not.
I can tell you, most people do not test their water. Most residential homeowners do not test their water,
It's probably
They
a
should.
financial-
but they don't.
It's a financial thing, I'm sure.
It's
$80.
$120 to do a health risk package.
How do you do that?
You can contact a lab. One of the labs that we use, the lab I use personally for my testing at home is Endyne. Endyne, ENDYNE. They do all sorts of water testing. You can do a comprehensive package for $200. They'll test aesthetic and health risk factors in your water components.
How about radon?
Radon's not in the water, it comes up through the ground in your basement.
Yeah.
But they will test for radionuclides in water.
You can get a radon test.
You can get those through the health officer.
Right.
There's another test, it's not as intense as what you know, just what the state asks for. If a health officer gets a call for a water test, it's test kit A, it's like $11 or $12, and it only tests for coliform and E. coli. Those tests I've handed out, not provided or steered people that way, but not many this year. Not like the 98 from the tropical storm, Irene.
Yeah, if you wanted to test for your lead, arsenic, that would be in a standard health risk package.
That's not,
Could we publicize this somehow? Maybe through your
I
website?
can get you guys some information.
And people could make up their own minds.
Yeah.
what they want to
Absolutely.
I think that's a good idea. I mean, I had my water tested, but it's just a well, so it doesn't really apply too much to anybody else's thing.
do. Can I add something on this subject, or are you still talking? Just
Yeah.
briefly.
Go ahead.
Bob Stone sent me an email because he was sick last time, and then he had a death in his family, and he asked me if I would read the email. So if you don't mind, I will.
Which email?
About water. But
The email. I mean, this
he
whole
sent
thing.
me an email. No, it's a short email.
Oh.
If you don't mind, I'll read it.
Well, I'd like to finish the sentence I was blurting out when you interrupted me, but go ahead.
I'll wait till you're done. I'm sorry I interrupted you.
Two things. One, make sure you get identified on camera. As you know, we haven't rotated, send out your names and stuff, so he's not gonna have the names unless we give it to him. We'll have to do that. Maybe we get out, just so he knows who's talking.
Sure. I'm Chrissy Haskins, resident of Jamaica.
Thank you. And then the thing I have for you is, when we're talking about this piece, clearly this is well written, but I'm just concerned about that. So maybe, is that something the planning commission would like to do before you write this, or do you want to include recommending testing for the citizens? I mean, I'll leave that up to you guys, but it seems like there's a couple directions you can go with that.
Can you please repeat what, I didn't.
Yeah.
Okay, I'm guessing there's not enough time to actually go far enough to have that in the plan, but we would recommend, I propose that we as the planning commission, that we would recommend that there be testing done, that there's no way in the next 2 months that
No, there's no
we
way to
could
do it all.
foresee we get that done.
If we could just soften the phrase, could have levels of lead, to make it sound like it's a concern, and that the citizens should be advised to examine it, not that we're gonna go and examine it for an answer. Does that make sense?
Sure.
And I want that to be known, but at the same time, not make it sound so fearful.
You're talking about this one sentence you
Yeah.
were putting out before?
The one that says, could have levels of lead, arsenic, and uranium. Just soften it to the point where, yeah, it could, but we should all recognize that we all have that possibility. You know,
Well, it's
not
not
just,
just in the village, but within
Right.
the
Exactly.
entire town. Jamaica
Exactly.
could have these.
exactly, we have rural water systems out
Well, I
here.
think the way that was, my interpretation of the way that was written was it's leading to the possibility of looking into our study of some municipal water. Is that,
Yeah.
am I on the right track with the way I read that?
Mhm.
Right.
Okay.
But that was the only thing I had, and I think that, as again, I said this every time you come here, you guys have done a great job, it's well written. Just one where you used the word "and" 2 times in a row, I'm sure that's the only example I saw.
Oh, you caught it, good.
Oh, you put that in to see if I was really reading it? Yeah. I know that, too. Okay. So what can we do to help you guys?
Well, I guess it sounds to me like the next step to actually move forward with the water would be to start looking into how to get a municipal water system, and I'm wondering, how the select board feels about that, or would you support that kind of a study, and next steps towards municipal water for the town of Jamaica, the village?
I was at, full-day seminar in Manchester about water. And the thing that I got from that immediately is that a town can secure potential water sites and establish them even before it's ready to actually build a water supply, to guarantee that there are places that could produce water for the whole town. So it could be, and I don't know all the rules, but it could be on properties that are available to buy. It could be on properties that exist, negotiated with the owners, and it doesn't involve necessarily owning the property, just owning the water rights. And I think in advance, it would be wise for us to at least do that.
There has been some work on that. As a matter of fact, it's right up the hill here behind our town office. That has been looked at as a very serious place. And actually, this has been on the docket for many, many, many years. And the town actually came to the conclusion, along with many other towns within the state of Vermont, because we're not the only ones that are suffering from these issues, is that the cost is just unbearable. And the state is not really helping us very much with it. So all of the towns are kind of putting it off.
And it gets more expensive.
And it probably does get more expensive, but I know back in the 90s, probably when you were on board and Ed was on the board, you guys all talked about it then.
We looked
So-
at either doing wastewater for the whole town or doing
Right.
water
Right.
for the whole town, and letting people have their own septics. There was no financial help whatsoever from the state or the feds.
That's not what I got from that.
Maybe
meeting
things
that
have
I went
changed.
to.
Well, then that has changed.
Maybe a US
Should be
agricultural
good.
grant or
No.
something. No.
No, it isn't.
There are loans available, there is funding available, there are loans. There is grant money available, there are some requirements for that grant money. It all comes down to median household income and what your user rate is. In the case of a town that doesn't have a user rate, they would use whatever the user rate is that's estimated in your preliminary engineering report, which is a requirement for the funding. You can't get any funding without doing that. Jamaica has a median household income similar to some other towns around here, such as Manchester. Manchester cannot get grant money. Their median household income is too high, their user rates are too low. Their user rates are, the average user rate's maybe $350 to $400 a year. And that's too low to get grant money. You look at towns like Bellows Falls, they're closer to $500 a year, they have a lot lower median household income, they get grant money. So a town like Jamaica is gonna be pretty difficult to get grant money because of the household income here.
Is that because of the 2/3 property owners or second homeowners?
I don't know how they do it all, they have these charts that they use and, that tells them what the median household income is. Jamaica's about $50,000 a year. So,
So this speaks to Bob's email to me, and this is what he would have said at the last meeting. I'd hoped to be at the select board meeting, but we've experienced the death in the family, so we're into New York. I've spent some time about the potable water issue in town. It seems to me that separating the water source from proximity to septic systems resolves some of the problems new business finds in trying to develop state approval and business needs. One of the possibilities is to have a central potable water well, reservoir, and distribution system in town sites would connect and be taxed on usage development period 5 to 7 years. Outlier homeowners seem willing to participate cost-wise. We all want Jamaica to have a viable, strong future. Discussion of our town's future is very important to me. We do it for our kids, family, and should for ourselves. And a point that he made to me when he was speaking, and I'm not saying this to endorse the email, I'm just reading his email. The point he made to me, which seems relevant here, is that as businesses fail, town tax revenues fail, so that it might be financially important, and the costs would be offset in the increased tax base by having more people do business in town and more people live in town because it's more attractive.
And he's made that case to us in the past, and I think that there's a lot of validity to that question of tax base. We'd had a conversation, and I don't remember who all was in it, this goes back months ago, maybe even longer, about the idea about how to proceed with something like this. And as we kind of threw ideas, trying to see if anything made any sense, as we're looking for the funding for this thing, because it's going to be expensive and we don't have any money, the idea of putting a bond to have a water system put in. And as soon as I mentioned the word bond, everybody's, we've done this before, Paul, how many times do you want to get shot at for one like that? So there is that issue about what to do with it and how to fund it. And it was shortly on the heels of the last bond we floated, so it was still, the nerves were pretty raw. But there may be, if there is a mood in the community for this sort of thing, it's certainly worth exploring, but it's gonna be a real tough one.
It's all in the plan. Everything we're talking about is in here.
Well, what would it cost to do the study initially?
that would really depend on what the scope of the study is. Do you wanna study water or wastewater or both? What's the study area gonna be?
But what if,
It's all gonna, that all depends.
what if we agree that water would be cheaper than sewer?
It
And
probably would
that
be.
having a water supply would preclude the need for a sewer? So maybe it makes sense to study water.
I just wanted, it's a little bit off the topic of the village, but the town of Jamaica, there are businesses flourishing. You take a count up on the other end of town. I mean, I come up with like 10 people that are in business and have been in business. Karen's been in business. This one place over here, the new restaurant, is having a little trouble with some things, you know, I won't say what, but I don't think the town is dying or anything. I've heard that phrase before. It's thriving on the border. It's just jammed with businesses that have water and septic. So, you know, I think everything in this part of the plan speaks to everything. You know, like I've heard, it's been in place. It's just, my feeling is we're gonna find out it's gonna cost millions and millions of dollars
Yes, it is.
for 5 or 6 buildings there. And, you know, without really looking into it, we won't know that for sure.
I think it's more than 5 or 6 buildings though.
Well, I'm just saying, I remember Jamaica House had trouble
Yeah,
years
Well, it's
ago.
Jamaica House, the coffee shop, Ostas are all on one septic
right.
system right now. How long that will last, I don't know.
And it's also down the road even 5 years, that maybe every resident here won't be able to drink their own
Exactly,
water.
right.
You know, that's something that I think a plan, or not a plan, but
So,
an evaluation study would come up with, and certainly you need a mix of residents and businesses for a thriving downtown. But, so it's not literally just the businesses, I think, that we're all talking about in the plan. I mean,
right.
it's, you know, the 100 people that live right here too.
It's a vexing problem, and it does not lend itself to an easy solution. It doesn't lend itself to an easy division of ideas. I mean, everybody's got the same thinking to the extent that we would like to make this somehow work for the benefit of the town, without killing the town to get to it. I mean, that's a real problem. But I'm perfectly willing to entertain, you know, not tonight because we've got so many other things, but there may come a time when we need to have just a meeting on just water and get a sense of the entire community.
Well, what would it cost for the survey?
Well, we're not exactly sure. We don't have that information. That's something to research to find out.
I
don't
think
know.
that part of the plan is excellent, the way it's worded, and it sounds like a good way to proceed. But like you were saying, maybe been that one in a general way like that for a while.
And one of the major issues is that the outliers, all of those people who live on their own septic systems and water systems many of them have difficulty paying in their taxes for a certain few. So that has always been the dilemma.
There's a talk of a separate fire district to resolve that dilemma. And I don't know the legality of it, but that,
I can talk a little bit about fire districts. So, in some towns, if the water system, or even wastewater system, serves a much smaller portion of the town than the entire town itself, what will happen is a fire district gets created that does require a town vote to create the fire district. But then, within the fire district, the fire district boundaries would be set by the boundaries of the water system or wastewater system, or both. And the people that are within that boundary would be responsible for paying for the water and or wastewater system, and they would be the ones voting on any decisions with it. So the rest of the town would not vote on those decisions, so it wouldn't be an entire town vote to, replace a water main or something. That would just be the users of the system. Dorset has 2 fire districts. They have Dorset Fire District and East Dorset. Stratton has a fire district. So there are several fire districts around, and it gives the town a way to give the ownership of that water system and the control of that water system to the users.
and it could be enlarged as the town expanded.
It can be. It could be enlarged, and a fire district is considered to be a municipal entity, so it is eligible for grants and loans,
As a fire district.
yes.
You do have a defunct fire district already in this town.
Here?
Been set up since 1856, I believe. It's just kind of defunct because nobody's really running it.
So it still exists.
It's what started your fire department. So, it's sort of there.
How about that?
Just nobody's in charge of it. It all died.
So why don't we find out what the study would cost first, as a first step?
You have to look at it every once in a while to see if things have changed. If they improved or worsened. You don't want to wake up surprised.
I think one of the things that's unanimous, that everybody we talk to, is that in order to make the town flourish, and grow in a significant direction, we need to come up with some kind of a water policy that's gonna be able to move us forward. I think this document's a really good example. And I think that, we can all get behind it. We just have to figure out what steps to take. And maybe with the information that this, fire district exists, that may make some of the political moves less, that may already be in place, so we don't have to go, I mean, I know nothing about setting up a fire district, but we already have one. Might be easier to resurrect it than do that,
Well, it might be, you might have to broaden its boundaries a little, cause I mean, the town, the village was probably a lot different in 1856 than it is now. But, I mean, you gotta at least look into it, have something to present to the taxpayers, and they can turn it down or they can vote for it.
Sure.
But you gotta give them the information, or at least find out for yourself if it's viable or not.
That may be a project that we can all get behind to set something up for the March meeting, to be able to present to the entire population options.
Who would be the one to do that, the select board or the planning commission?
For both,
It's gonna be
Both
coordinated
Get
effort, I
it
think.
together? Yeah.
Yeah.
not that you ever both don't have a lot on your plate, but
And you
Yes.
need some legal advice
Mm-hmm.
to go along with
it's
that.
gonna be a team effort.
Yeah.
You gotta have to work
We
together.
have an engineer who's giving us a lot of information tonight.
Yeah, it's gotta become more often.
Just a resident.
Well, okay, that's good. Let's work on that together, because I think that it's gonna take a long time, but I think that if we get started now, maybe we'll have something, at least something reasonable to present to the citizens in March. We can, let's say March, we need to have it together sometime before we actually put out the warning. And maybe we can craft something between the planning commission and us to put on the warning to gauge a sense if we've got the community support behind it. And we may, in the interim, have some gatherings, you know, either here or at the town hall, just to explore things interim. Thank you, Beta. Thank you very much. Thank all of you. Look at all this brain trust we have here today. You're all hired. Number 7, speaking of water and fire districts, we have our fire chief. Yes, sir.
Angela's fire chief, your fire chief. Till August maybe, who knows? I was requested by the chairman of the board to change your run cards.
Change the what?
The run cards for your ambulance service, and the changes have been made. There may still be some final adjustments that need to be made. So far, everything is pretty much all set, except for Under the Mountain Road, which Londonderry did agree that they will still cover. It makes sense. Hamilton Falls is still, it's out there. I've informed Drew Hazelton that he needs to come up with a plan on how to deal with Hamilton Falls.
And going out Turkey Mountain Road won't do it.
No, that's not the problem. The problem is personnel to do the high ankle rescue part.
Oh,
Londonderry did it in the past. They are no longer a primary outfit, so they pulled back on that, and it's Drew's problem now. Jamaica Fire and Rescue do not do ropes. We will do support, but we do not have the desire or the expertise to do high ankle rescue, and that is high ankle rescue.
Yeah.
So, and Rescue Inc. does provide a technical rescue team, maybe with some assistance with Brad Fire, so they have to get their stuff together. There are some other developments with response from the north. This whole process did not go smooth as everybody thinks. It could have been handled a lot differently. I'm not saying I made enemies in the north, but getting, things are being pulled back a little bit. So it's all gonna come from the south, it has to. And Rescuing needs to step up and provide, especially now that we're paying them for it. They're gonna have to come through, they cannot drop the ball. There's no going back. If this does not work out with Rescuing, there's no going back to what we had before. So both parties have to make this happen. Jamaica Fire and Rescue is not getting into ambulance service. So,
Maybe time will heal some of the wounds. We are willing still to support London there.
It's how the process was done, at least.
We hired Rescue Inc., and they're gonna have to do what we contracted them
That's
for.
right.
And
That
they
should go without saying.
And they
Yes,
will. And
They will, they have to. They cannot develop a bad name, they're a business, they're in for the business, so.
Right, and
That's
they're
what they do.
expanding, they want more, so.
Yeah, you got it, you either grow or you die. But, you know, it could have been done a lot politer, I think.
Definitely.
Yeah, but you got an ambulance service, the cards are all set. Hamilton Falls thing, nobody goes up there, we're fine, we're good, and they're safe. The other issue I'm looking into is minor detail, it's just another entity that works with us has maybe pulled back and not been available to us. They're dealing with their primary towns and they're not gonna deal with we're second, so. We're at 98 calls this year so far. We haven't even really hit the halfway mark as far as time. So at this time last year, I think we were looking at 50, 60 calls, something like that, and now we're at 98. I'm just wondering if we'll hit 100 by the end of July. There is some significant, it's different types of calls. You know, we're dealing with medical, fire, the big fire in Townsend. We're running, manpower is tight. Burnout's coming. As far as your fast squad, we're only running maybe 1 or 2 EMTs.
Can you define the fastest one?
Fast squad is your first response squad. It's basically your fire department's EMTs and EMRs, emergency medical responders, emergency medical technicians. Our department's aging. Day shift is over 70 club. Chairman of the board is one of those. Not too many of us left. Especially with rescuing, being more quick on the spot. We're not getting any patient time. You're getting Rescue Inc. In the process, you're probably killing the fast squad here, or the first response squad here. We're just, getting there in time to see the ambulance taking off. Quick response, patients being taken care of, but we're not getting our time, so we're dropping like flies or not showing interest. But that's fine, if it works out to that point where we're just a fire department, then we're just a fire department. We still have to respond to probably priorities. Sometimes Rescue Inc., with the call volume, our call volume's up, everybody else's is. If we're at 98 calls, I can't imagine what Rescue Inc.'s pulling out of Division 1. There are times where your Division 2 truck is at the line, and they're hauling really fast to get up here to answer calls up here. They're covering. Their coverage, even with the extra truck on at Townsend, I bet you they're having difficulties. With 7 overdose in one day in Brattleboro, that taxed the system all the way around. There's a high need and ain't enough of us around to go around. So we're doing the best we can. We're hanging in there.
Do you want to speak to that meeting I had with the other department, or do you want me to talk about that?
What, Putney?
Yeah.
Tom Goddard, fire chief in Putney, had put together with his members 20-page report on how hard they are struggling with membership. They are not alone. They have run into a situation, if I can remember this right, that they possibly only have 1 member to run with the truck during the day. That is not good. That's like me just showing up, taking the fire truck, and going to fight the fire all by myself. They have actually gotten to the point where they've almost said they can't cover other towns for mutual aid because they can't cover their own town in case something happens there. It's not uncommon. It's getting to the point where maybe possibly we're looking into the future of regional fire departments, just to make sure we have enough man coverage. The fire at the horse farm in Townsend was a 5th alarm.
Yeah, it started out as a 5.
5 alarms in the fire business is apocalyptic. It is huge. I counted on my finger at least 18 to 20 different departments. We had at least 30 apparatus on scene. We had 4 aerial trucks, or at least en route or responding. We pumped maybe over 100,000 gallons worth of water. This call came in a little after midnight, and there were still crews on scene at 1 in the afternoon. These are volunteers that give their time, no pay. Most departments are not paid. There's a few out there that do pay per call, but these guys, you know, the few, the proud, the firefighters, it's getting to be a lot.
I wanted you to talk about that because I went to the meeting with this select board, but I also talked to some people in Colchester who are in the same boat. This is a statewide, perhaps nationwide phenomenon. So when we're talking about the struggles that we're having in Jamaica, it's not just Jamaica. It's across the board with volunteer departments. They're aging, as he referenced. We are aging. And so it's a nationwide, or at least certainly a southern Vermont-wide, total Vermont-wide, with Colchester and Putney and all the people we know on a regular basis. The people who are here are pretty dedicated folk. I mean, they're getting up at 2 o'clock in the morning and doing the best they can with what they've got. But nonetheless,
We're looking into the pay-per-call program, but once you go paid, you're dealing with all the things of payroll.
insurance.
My mom's the treasurer, and she doesn't want to get into payroll and social security and W-2s. She did that when she was town clerk. She don't want to revisit that again. It might actually end up having to have a paid full-time person doing that, and you don't want to get into those types of budgets. I mean,
Are there ways to incentivize us to get new younger people to join?
we're looking at that, maybe like gas cards or some way of making it gift oriented.
About the same spirit as you
Yeah,
and the people on the crew who volunteered.
I have a 25-man roster, and I have a core group of about 5 or 6 people that actually show up for calls and show up for training.
And in comparison, Putney's got 45, 46, so they've got a bigger, and they have the exact same problem with 44.
It's, at the volunteer thing, I don't have requirements for people to show up. But if I have a firefighter who hasn't showed up in a few trainings, and he shows up all geared up and ready to go into the burning gun, guess what? You're sitting. I haven't seen you in any trainings. I don't know what you can do. You are a liability. I am responsible for that 25-man roster. It is on my shoulders, and I cannot morally or physically or mentally deal with somebody that might get killed, or it's on my shoulders. I can't go there. So,
So in addition to this, it's a plea to all out there, anybody who has the interest at all, please give us a call.
yeah.
But again, back to the agenda item, the real trick right now,
Cards
is
are
the
done.
ambulance thing taken care of. But getting people out there,
Yeah.
and that's across the state, it's not just Jamaica, it's across the state.
So your run cards are all set, everything's been changed. Please don't do it to me again. I have 12 zones. 10, the last 2 zones are Pikes Falls and Hamilton Falls, special calls, but the other ones are, I have to figure out fire and brush. It's a whole separate thing for brush fire, so that's a whole nother response in itself. So it's a lot of work working with dispatch to change those around. And I still might have to tweak them if I get my information. I got my assistant chief checking into a few things for me. And we'll find out on this other organization if they're gonna be there for us or not, so.
But in a nutshell, the bottom line though is we are covered.
We are covered.
We are covered,
You are getting what you paid for so far.
good.
So, you know, it would be good to get a report from the rep once in a while on that end, or at least thing, so that you can see how things are going. Hopefully they'll show up and, you know, at least give you a biannual or quarterly report on how things are going. They should.
That's a good point, yes.
I mean, they work for you, they've contracted. They're not a volunteer organization, they are a paid contracted thing. You don't just give them the money and forget about it. So, let's hopefully they step up and we don't have any problems.
We could ask.
I have full confidence in Rescue Inc. for filling their contractual issues. And I appreciate what the Jamaica Fire Department does. And this is off topic a little bit, but the trainings and the hoops they make you guys jump through, these new people, they're not, my brother was in it, he couldn't keep up with it.
Firefighter 1 is 200 hours.
Right.
That's why there's no volunteers.
It's
It's just my
So it's
opinion.
getting so more technical.
well, the typical structure fire is no longer wood and paper and plaster, it's plastics and
Right.
stuff. So our trainings are huge. We work with the West River Valley Training Group. The organization, it's to the south and it's expanded. This horse farm fire, 5-alarm fire, we saw everybody there that was at the training group. So it was like, oh, there's another training center. No, but we're learning to work regionally because we have to. So,
I would like to say to you, being in charge, I know you're putting in a lot of hours. And I personally, and I can't speak for the board, but I have a feeling they would say the same thing. Thank you so much.
well, you're welcome. I am not alone in this venture. There's,
Right, I know, but
Or-
being the chief, you have, as you said, a lot of stuff on your
I
shoulders.
do a lot that it's behind the scenes, a lot of reports with the feds, the state, a lot of the medical stuff. Taxpayers keep calling me up to go check out their places for insurance. We have an ISO rating of 9, 1 being the best, 10 being the worst, and we're at 9. If we had a water district, we might have hydrants, which might get us to an 8. It doesn't improve it any, but it's sometimes difficult for people to get insurance with low premiums because we're 15 minutes out. All I can say is if they put in ponds that are accessible next to their house, if they got large tracts of land, ponds would be great with easy access. Not ponds down over the bank and in a field, that don't help me. But if it's close to the road and I can access it with a truck, that's perfect.
I got one of those.
Yes,
Does it have to be potable?
no,
It has to be squirtable.
it has to be squirtable. This last pond we sucked out of had special fish in it, and I'm sure I'm gonna hear it from Townsend. I already had, actually. The dry hydrant needs to be seen, not covered with a bush, and it needs to be accessible. We almost got to the point where we almost drove a fire truck out onto the lawn. And I don't really want to do that to somebody's lawn, but it needs to be accessible. So we don't have to go off-road, and we don't have to do too much damage to the homeowners, front lawn, back lawn.
Thank you, sir.
We try to protect property.
We did not do any more damage to the.
Yes, we need to.
All right, thank you, sir.
You're welcome.
Any other questions for the chief before he runs?
I do.
Go for it.
Out of the close to 100 calls that you participated in, how many were medical?
Probably about a third. Go with about a third medical. third fire, kind of chimney structure, brush. And the other third would be about public service. Between a little old lady who's probably lonely and needs her blood pressure cuff checked out, to trees and wires down, assisting other agencies. Sometimes it might be a medical, like if state police is going into a domestic abuse, and we'll get called to stand by in case things don't go as planned. Yeah, we'll do the standby with rescuing, stage away. You'll hear on the scanners, they're staging away, such and such. Pretty much state police go in, they go in as a team, they don't go in alone, and they take care of the problem, but if things don't go well, we're there to pick up the pieces. The public assist, I mean, with person, somebody might call up, their emergency may not seem like an emergency to the average person or anybody else, but they're having an emergency and we come. And we make their day better, we hope. So, cat stuck in a tree, we've done that. Though we didn't climb the ladder, we cut the tree down. We pancaked the cat, but the cat was down. But the cat was out of the tree. Anything that comes along, we do.
Thank you, sir.
You're welcome.
Thank you very much.
Hope that answered your question.
Yeah, we know he's gonna call you for a cat, didn't we?
If you want the cat to live, probably not.
All right, let's move on to number 8. We're gonna talk about the roadside mowing. We have a little problem with our roadside mowing. We've been trying to get someone to mow our roadsides for weeks. I just today got a second bid. Up until today, as we were talking about last week, we only had one bid for mowing. Not quite twice what we paid last year, but close to it. And then the individual who did it last year has not responded to any of our phone calls or text messages, so we're assuming he's not gonna bid. The two bids I got were $9,000 and $10,000. The lowest was $9,000. It's from Jake Beatty Properties out of Newfane, Vermont. And I would suggest,
I move that we hire him to do the roadside mowing.
I'll second.
I have a second. Do I have any other discussion?
Just why
What?
why in particular him? You have a good.
Because he's the only one that's
He's
doing
the
it.
only one that's come in with it.
It's good.
And pretty soon he won't be able to do it.
It's getting late in the grass.
Yeah, and actually, on our road, I know, there are areas that really make our bends blind.
What was it?
Beatty, Jake
And they
Beatty.
haven't been able to cut
So is,
Carson very well.
Oh, yeah.
so that answers your question?
That does.
Good. All in favor say aye.
I,
Any opposed? Any abstentions? Hearing none? Motion passes. So we will get in touch with Mr. Beatty's.
He's a local boy.
He's a new fan.
Yeah, but he used to be from Jamaica.
Oh, yeah? Okay. So anyway, the question was, why is it taking us so long to cut the grass? That's the answer. Because our procurement policy requires that we do a lot of, we reach out to other people, and we've just run out of other people to reach out to. Okay, the next item of business, review and approve the sheriff's contract. Did you look that over?
Yes, I did.
Okay. This is pretty much the same contract we've had with the sheriff for as long as I can remember it. I have to sign it tonight if you guys so desire. The dates have been changed, but it's the same contract we've had with the
how
sheriff.
many hours?
Let me see here. It's been a while since I read it. Let's see. Where does it say how many hours? The office agrees that it will schedule deputies on a regular basis to meet a goal of approximately 80 hours a month of patrol coverage. The office agrees that based on input of the select board, the number of hours per month will be adjusted to specially identified needs of the town. So we're talking about 80 hours. And it's, for those keeping track at home, it's about $45 per deputy hour. per hour per deputy, or something along those lines.
So
That includes all.
I know that Lexa keeps an eye on.
She does. Alexa, our liaison with the sheriff's
Yeah.
department.
So that, are they keeping up with our hours?
I believe so. I believe so. I noticed, we had a conversation a couple of weeks ago about how it had dipped at one point and then it got up for something else. And
Sometimes they send a couple cruisers up to
Yeah.
make up. You may not see them for 3 weeks,
Right,
and then all of a sudden they're all over the place. But
yeah.
we do check in our treasurer checks to make sure that we're getting our hours. And they do list the civil complaints that being traffic tickets, and sometimes they do, I believe part of that contract is for other than, speed, traffic enforcement, or some of it is for, they check the school, they check on break, they get involved in braking memories, state this, somebody's DWI or something. I mean, they caught someone smoking weed behind in our parking lot here. It's all in the report does it come out every?
I think it's monthly.
Every month.
I believe so.
And they tell what the town receives in revenues, if any,
Yeah, I thought they
for
did
the
that
speeding
too.
tickets.
Yeah.
So I'd entertain a motion instructing the chair to sign this on behalf of the select board.
So move.
Have a second?
Second.
Any further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions? It passes. I will sign that and get that on its way. The next item we have is number 10, and this is the tax rate. And I had this conversation with Terry today, and she wants me to point something out. The tax rate for the 2017 tax rate, total resident tax rate is 1.9275. Non-resident is 1.7101. Now, for reference, 2017 is 1.9275. Total resident for 2016 was 1.8138. The non-resident, 1.7101 now, last year was 1.6979. The way it works out math-wise, the actual, our taxes, the municipal end of it, did not go up. But the school end of it went up more than enough to make up for any economies that we've been able to do it. So that's where we are right now. We as a chair, as a select board, need to sign this tonight. But it's not like we have a lot of choices. It's pretty much, it's.
Do you have any numbers on how much the school went up?
I don't, not in this paperwork.
Okay.
I can tell you that school tax, rates and taxes went over. 40, is that right? Yeah, 4,772 was the taxes raised for the school. Municipal tax rate and taxes came to 895. So 895,000 versus 4,772. So it's one of those things that we have very little control over, but it kind of, our end of it, as an example, in 2016, total raise for the municipal tax rate and taxes was 942,000. This year it's 895,000.
Went down.
So we're holding the best we can, but it's still, we have no control over the school part.
I remember when we were working on it, December and January, we really tried to hold it,
We did, yeah.
hold the line.
So we don't need to accept that, we just need to sign.
We don't have, there's not much we can do about it, but we need to sign it tonight so so Terry can do what she needs to do.
Yeah. Do you want a motion?
I don't think we need that.
I don't believe we do because we just have to,
Do
see
it.
if we did last time. Terry said, here,
Sorry.
I don't care, either way.
let's sign it. Let's make a motion just to make sure we can always, I'd rather have the motion not need it than need it, have somebody come back later and say you didn't do it.
I move that we accept the tax rate that has been provided us.
Second.
Have a second? Any further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions? Done, I'll do that. I'm gonna circulate that tonight with the other items to be signed. Okay. Approve the tax rate. Okay, number 11, discuss and approve the Muzzy Fund guidelines. I sent everybody a copy of the guidelines. Everybody has seen them already, the ones we got back from Paul Gillies. Paul Gillies, for those of you, is our attorney. He was Assistant Secretary of State for a while, and he really is the guy who has written pretty much all there is. He's the guy for towns and stuff, so he's pretty reliable. So, I have a couple of observations, and I'm entertaining everybody else's on this.
Okay. I responded to the select board with suggestions of my own, which I think are a little more humanitarian, and we can talk about the choices.
Let's see, where are yours?
Here.
Yeah, I found my copy. I thought I had a copy.
Side by side.
This is a new one.
Oh, here's, no,
Well, this is.
that's yours.
I've been working with Muzzy on this,
Mhm.
because he has connections and he made some corrections in this, which is just family oriented. So we're not
Sure.
really sure who these people are.
Well, it says on the bequest paperwork, J.H. Muzzy.
Right. You wanna address that?
Well, those, I didn't know, I thought originally it was, J.A. was probably a typo. And then I looked as a James Harold, who was, James Elijah Muzzy's son. So I just redid it, I wanted to get Elnora's name on there, which I did, and I put, James H. Muzzy on there and let it go because we don't know whether that's the son or her husband. It could be a typo, I didn't have any with it, so I just took what the lawyer took off.
Could you say who you are, since there's so much history here? Could you say to the camera who you are?
Definitely.
Have you related to,
Alan Monroe.
and this J.H. or J.R. was your,
Great-grandfather.
okay.
Well, J.A. was my great-grandfather, Elnora was my great-grandmother, and James Harold would have been her son,
Okay.
his son too.
And the store was J.A. Muzzy.
Yes.
Well, what we're dealing with though is we've got a legal document that's
Right.
recorded that says what the lawyer put in this first paragraph. I'm really reluctant to change anything that's already been in right or wrong, that's what we have to deal with, because that's that's what's recorded in the account. So this may be factual, but it's not legal.
Well, what is the humanitarian part? That's what I'm interested in.
Well, I sent you the copy, do you want me to read it?
Yeah, but I
Yeah.
couldn't, I'd rather hear what you mean by that.
All right, so the way the attorney proposed it kind of makes an applicant defensive. Person who's not doing well at the time has to come before what would feel like a court and swear loyalty. And I felt that somebody's need, was in so much need to come and ask for this money, that it's our responsibility to help them through it. It's not like we're dealing with every resident in Jamaica, we're dealing with people who are facing an emergency situation. So I thought a kinder way to put this was the way, and can I include you in this?
I'm listening.
Yeah, and I spent some time with Alan working this out, and I think this would certainly satisfy the same objectives as the other version. I don't think I've gone to a lot of meetings of different organizations recently who are reaching out to people to help them instead of putting up a wall and saying, we dare you to cross this wall. So I'll read what I propose and you can discuss it and decide what you like.
Well, maybe if you could compare, for example,
Sure.
number one on the
So to be made
Gillies
right.
one and number one on the one that you have written is quite different.
Yes, it is different.
Yes.
But it essentially, I don't have the one, do I have that one?
You don't,
I don't have that in
you
front
don't
of me.
have the town one?
No, I don't. I have it on my phone, but if I could use yours maybe.
Want this one?
Okay.
One of the things that I'm most interested in is his statement that the request shall be signed by the applicant who shall certify that his or her request under the pains and penalties of perjury.
Well, I object to that.
I'm wondering, you know, the legalese on that, I'm wondering what that's covering that maybe we're not covering.
Well, we're picking a committee to evaluate. We're not just saying, well, you say you need money, here's a check. We're picking a committee to evaluate,
Right.
and we assume those people on the committee are competent enough to research this. And also, to address another item down there, we're also telling the committee to evaluate whether this was more properly served by another agency. So we're not just, everybody who passes through the committee is not just being said yes or no. We're saying, this may work for you, and you'll see what you have in store. And I also mentioned in these that at the end, when the decision is made to say yes, that person sign a statement. So, yes, that person.
What kind of a statement would that be? Would it,
Well,
see, I don't know
we can flesh that out.
why Gillies put that there, how important
Which
that
one-
is
which one is that?
legalese.
Because,
Number one.
yeah, right off the bat, they
Very-
wanna make sure that whoever's
very-
making petition for this money is telling us the truth.
Yeah,
Yes, and I think the three-man committee is charged with determining.
The pains and penalties of perjury would be, you don't get it if you're lying.
Well,
Yeah, that's right.
that's pretty much,
Yes,
that's
yeah.
all that
But
means. Let me give you, wait,
why is that there?
let me give you a little bit of background on this one. The
Okay,
pains and penalty of perjury is a phrase that has been used to substitute for "so help me God." And so what they've done is that you're seeing it scattered around in different legal documents now, where it says "so help me God" or swearing to under the pains and, I mean, it's just a way of getting around that particular phrase.
okay.
But the same thing applies, the pains and penalty. The idea is you're telling somebody that you are swearing to tell the truth, and that's what that's in.
Well, that can be in the signed statement at the end when the approval is made. So this person has gone through a process with this committee of investigating what the truth is. And, I mean, it's a small town, people know people. And if we have the right committee that we pick because of their qualifications, they're going to determine that this guy is telling the truth. And at the end, when they say, well, now you have to sign this, whatever it is to be signed, and that I didn't list in here, but whatever it is to be signed implies through words that this person is telling the truth. And, you know, a person can lie and sign, "so help me God." So we're seeing a lot of that.
So I hear that, but I think that your point about them signing after the work has been done seems a little cart after the horse. I think I would want the people who are making petition to be being as truthful as possible, granted they can lie, before they start doing the work, not after they made the decision.
But we don't want to frighten people away who are in need. And everybody in this town who's in need is known by somebody. We're not having strangers. We're saying it has to be a legally domiciled within this town. So it's somebody who's known to the town. It's not somebody who comes into the town and says, hey, here's a way I can pick up some bucks. It's somebody who people around know, and the committee will know that. The committee will know who this person is, or they'll know who to ask who this person is. So, yes, it is a little work, and, I mean, this hasn't been used in 15 years, and hopefully it won't have to be used too many times. So it's not like they're gonna be investigating all 600 permanent residents. They're gonna investigate people who are in need coming for money. And at least one person on the committee, or you or me, will know this person. So the beginning of the process is already there because we know each other. We're friends with our neighbors.
This document is supposed to outlive us. And I think
And they
that,
will
I
also.
think that the attorney put it together for the long term, and I think following his
I don't
instincts is
object,
good.
I don't object to having somebody certify that he's telling the truth. I object to frightening them off in the beginning of the process.
I don't see where,
If you had a
I
sign,
wouldn't be, it says all requests to be made in writing. first. So you have to do that. You have to do something. You have to take some steps to help yourself or ask for help.
If you can, yes.
Wow.
What was the procedure done for the last two applicants?
I don't know.
I think Lexa knew, but she's not here.
Well, what we're trying to do is produce a document and a policy that will serve the next two applicants, not go back and try to reinvent what did or didn't happen.
I agree with
So I think that following the guidelines of the attorney makes a lot of sense to me when you think in terms of the future, the potential for this document lasting 10 or 15 or 20 years.
I think
You had another point you wanted to bring up too. You said there was another one?
the other point about having a select board member,
When Paul wrote this up, he included the phrase, "The request shall be directed to a three-person committee, including at least one member of the select board." Now, this is independent of our conversation at the last meeting, and I think we all agree that if one member of the select board is on the committee, that person would end up having to recuse himself, so then we have an even number of people on the select board.
we said we didn't want to have a select.
Correct, so that I think we all agreed from the very beginning, so that's not much debate in that one. So we're going to remove that phrase.
He also said in an email before that we didn't need to be burdened by this at all if we didn't want to.
There we are. See, that's a good question. If you go to the very first second paragraph.
No, but it's an option.
Oh, but here's the line that gets us to that point. It says the town, acting through its select board, accepted the funds and the trust and has taken on the fiduciary responsibility to ensure that the funds are properly funded.
Properly expended.
Yeah, it's spelled properly, I didn't catch it. So the question now is, did the select board actually accept those funds and accept the responsibility of this? Apparently, they have been dispersing the funds without actually, because we can't find it anywhere in the books, accepting it. So do we, as a select board, want to accept the responsibility of the trusteeship? And if we do, then these are the guidelines we'd start.
We're accepting the responsibility, and part of that acceptance is we're picking a committee that can carry this out. Because each one of us didn't want to have the responsibility of directly carrying it out. So our responsibility is selecting a responsible committee. That's our responsibility. And then at the end,
To make the
to
final
make the
decision.
final decision. So that this committee of people that we trust comes to us with their recommendations. And
We've done that. We've formed a committee.
right, and we
Right.
formed the committee, so
Yeah.
that's right. So we trust this committee to bring us their proper findings that they acted conscientiously about. And then our responsibility is to either certify that we agree with it or that we don't agree with it. And one of the things that I objected to in this is that we're asking somebody who's severely debilitated, illness, whatever, fire, explosion, we're asking them to know what to do when they don't know what to do. I mean, there are people who really need training in writing their own checkbook. So that's why I included what I wrote, that this three-man committee will review and decide maybe this isn't the right venue for this person's aid. They'll have already decided this. They'll have already recommended that this go to a different organization. And of course, we can retain the right to agree or disagree with that. Because ultimately, we have the right to decide based on what this trusted committee has told us.
Well, how does that dovetail with the group that you have, the private group of individuals who are going to be providing those services?
It doesn't. We are only a referral. The group that I know, which is not my committee, which is called Jamaica Helps, that I'm part of, is going to be a referral service. And we're currently having speakers visit us, and anybody's welcome to attend these, to talk about the various services that are available. All this committee will do is refer people and maybe help them, and maybe take them to a meeting, or maybe help them make a phone call to get the help they need and they don't know how to reach out for.
Now, number 7, he addresses that area. The applicant shall have exhausted other public sources of aid, such as the State of Vermont Human Services Agency, prior to applying for aid.
Well, I don't agree with that, because this person is disabled right
Uh-huh.
now in one way or another. But that's not to say this person shouldn't be directed in that direction. But I think this person should be helped in that direction. And again, we're not gonna see all 600 residents, so we have the time, especially since we have this specific committee to review these people, to help them get to this point. And this may be the very point they get to. No, you will go here, and that person doesn't know how to do it. And I know people who are in this circumstance who don't know how to reach out. And these people can, and certainly the Jamaica Helps can be referred to, but we don't take any authority in this. The select board has the ultimate authority. The committee that we appoint, that we trust, has the authority to review it.
So, in fact, what you're suggesting then is that when someone makes the application to the town, to the select board, we then refer to the three-person committee.
Committee.
They would then evaluate the circumstances and possibly refer them to your outfit to do exactly what number 7 says.
Yes,
That's
that's
what we
Yeah.
decided before.
This is-
We already decided.
Right.
Right,
Yeah.
right, yes, that's right, we have. Yes, that's what I propose.
So then this is okay.
Well,
When I read the two of them, I didn't see what the difference
the
was.
difference is that this doesn't force a person necessarily to have to do it on his own. We're talking about people who may not be able to do it on their
Well,
own.
they can come to the committee, or
They can come to the
committee,
committee.
and then they'll help them.
That's
I
right.
don't understand what you mean. I don't understand what's different from number 7.
The number 7 here implies that the person shall have already gone around the block finding whoever can help them and run out of people to help them. And what I'm saying is that the person comes to the committee not knowing who to go to, and maybe gets referred immediately and maybe doesn't get
Right.
referred immediately. But it's not putting a burden on somebody who's already, I mean, I know the cases that were paid before on this issue, and there were people who were in real need. There's a very sick child, an older woman with hospital bills.
I'm not questioning that.
Well, but the wording here implies that that person has to pick up their pull themselves up by the bootstraps. And not everybody can do that when they're hurting.
All right, so one more time around the horn.
Yeah, sure.
What the hell is the difference in what you're saying compared to what's already here? What do you want to do?
I
How do you
want to help those people that come.
How?
I don't, by discovering what their problem is and referring them either to us or to the right.
One of those agencies that should be doing that is the Department of Human Health and
But you
Welfare, or whatever.
you
the
know
hell
how
it
to
is.
call the Department of Human Health and Welfare. Not everybody does.
So the point, and I think, kind of leaning on this side, the point is that the three-person committee can
Right.
refer this person to those agencies.
Or maybe even help them contact those agencies.
That's what we did, we had discussed that before, that we would hope that they would do that.
We would hope that they would do that, but here we're saying we'll help them do that.
Who would?
The three-man committee. Here we'll say they have to have done it already.
No, let's go back and parse this a piece. I think you're misinterpreting this. The applicant shall have, here's what we're talking about. The applicant shall have exhausted other public sources of aid, such as the State of Vermont Human Services Agencies, prior to applying for aid. Once the applicant has met the three-person group, before they actually come to us for the aid, they will
Right.
have gone through the other agencies.
Because
We agree to that. We all agree on this.
Because the three-man committee suggested that to them.
Yeah.
But here, that we're not suggesting, the three-man committee isn't doing anything. They're saying, no, you gotta go to all these agencies and then we'll talk to you.
Doesn't say that.
It implies that. Am I wrong?
No, I think it does imply that. The applicant shall have exhausted other public sources of aid.
Prior to applying for the aid here.
Prior to applying for
For
aid.
here.
We're getting into a whole, I look at a state agency thing. We're getting involved with things that, it's not our responsibility that, say, a person who may be a veteran or something doesn't go down that avenue. I don't understand how this doesn't cover everything with the committee just helping them along their way.
Well, who are you reading on 7? Who are you
That's the
reading?
last thing though. They go through all of this the whole process first.
Wouldn't it, excuse me, wouldn't it make more sense to have the applicant come to this
Yes.
three-man committee,
Person, yes.
and they would meet with the committee problem, the committee can help them write up a proposal. And then they could say, well, you need to go to this agency.
That's what we're, that's what
That's
we're
not what
doing.
this says. That's not what this says.
That's
This
the way I
says he
understand it.
shall have exhausted other public sources
Before coming to us for the
before coming to
For
the
getting the money.
For the select board.
They're not coming to us. The three-man committee is bringing them to us. They're
However,
saying
they get to us, the
But
the
this-
select board.
But this implies that they have, even if it's number 7 on the list, it's not necessarily sequential.
So would it be happy, would it make you happy if I put in, prior to applying for aid from the Muzzy Fund? From aid for the, how do you want us to word this so that those of us who believe it says it already would make it, say it for you?
You have a three-man committee who has to evaluate whether they're available, whether the fund is available.
That's what we have in place already, I thought.
It doesn't sound that way to me.
When we discussed it, that's what we wanted the committee.
Yeah,
We
and, but
want the
that,
committee
that
to
didn't,
evaluate.
that didn't make, Willie's.
I don't understand, it seems to me.
As I read it, it, all
Your
of our
lawyer
best
wrote a
effort.
document that's catch-22.
Thank you.
I don't understand that.
It's a loop. I'll come to you, but I have to know what I'm doing before I come to you.
I don't read it that way. I read it as they must go through the other agencies before they apply to the select board for the
That's
money.
exactly
yeah,
right.
that's right, that's how I read it too.
And so that's what the three-man committee is supposed to do.
But the three-man committee, as I'm understanding, and by the way, I don't like it a man committee, three-person committee,
Three humans.
Okay.
is, I don't see anything wrong with helping people, say, well, yeah, we're here, but let's look at what you can do. Before you come to us to really ask us, we would appreciate if you go here to social services, here's a listing. We'll give you this list. Do this first, and then if you still have problems, come back.
And
But they're the ones that are really helping at the same time.
Didn't we think the three-person committee was?
Was going to do that.
Yeah. So how does that differ from what says in number 7?
This
Yeah.
implies that
This-
that's the first step,
Yeah.
even though it's number
Right,
7.
even before they come to the
To
committee.
me, it implies that this person that's coming and asking for money from this three-man committee would have gone to SEPCA, would have gone to
Yeah,
Community
already.
Services in the London area, would have
Right.
gone to all these other agencies, and I don't think you want to do it that way.
Right.
He would come
They want
and to this three-person committee
Mm-hmm.
and say, I'm interested in the Muzzy Fund, and they would say, well, you know, SEPCA can handle that better. You'd never see him again on the select board. That'd be the end of it. The only ones that are coming back to you, the way I understood it, would be the ones that want actual money out of the Muzzy Fund.
Yes, and what you just said, falling back to what you just said, which is exactly accurate. If somebody has gone through all those things, and they sat down to the three-person committee, they're gonna ask them what they've done, and they goes, well, I've already done this and this and this, what you just
But
said.
that's not a prerequisite, that,
But they don't have to do that.
It
They can
implies
apply.
that it's a prerequisite.
not to me, it does.
I don't read it that way.
Well, legal terms are
Yeah.
interpreted differently by
Yeah.
every.
Once they get to the committee, then it's gonna be not all warm and fuzzy, but they're gonna be helpful.
Why shouldn't it be warm
Right.
and fuzzy?
No,
You
well,
may
I
have
didn't
to
want
say
it.
no,
I
but
didn't
why
want it.
shouldn't it be warm and fuzzy?
Okay, let's go. What, the other thing, there was another thing that you wanted to put in here? I'll let you finish before I have a couple of thoughts.
On which? On which were you questioning? What were you questioning?
Or are you done? 'Cause
You want me to finish reading it?
Well, you were gonna make the comparison with the things that are different, that's what you're
Yeah.
doing.
The essence is the same, it's the attitude that's different. It's the attitude of the Muzzy Fund, two people thought enough to put a lot of money in 1954, $5,000 into a fund to help people. When they read this, they're gonna say, oh, it's not for me, I can't do that, I don't know how to do that, I don't know where to go, I don't know who to ask. Mine just implies that there are people to help. It doesn't give anybody money that this one wouldn't give. It doesn't give more or less. It just says we're welcoming you, we're helping you, and we're either directing you or giving you money, or you're lying and we're not giving you money.
Is there anything in that,
I didn't read that.
is there anything in that legal document guiding the three-person committee that says aid and assist?
The document says,
I'm asking you if it has specific words, which obviously Joel's looking for, something like aid and assist.
Yeah,
In the Muzzy document?
In the document you're discussing.
Oh, this one?
yeah.
You mean the attorney's document?
Yeah.
I don't think it does, I don't.
It does not. I can't find it.
Yeah, I don't remember that phrase.
Yeah.
Is it the idea behind this committee that they would aid and assist?
Yes.
Yes,
Then why isn't it in there?
The idea behind the committee is that they're supposed to vet the people who are coming to us.
Aid and assist.
yeah,
That's the purpose of the committee,
right.
is to vet the individuals coming to us.
And aid and assist.
And aid and assist. I agree. I think all could stand as it is if we add that phrase.
The only thing that I have about any changes that makes sense to me is that it's a legal document that the town is paid for. I don't think this was done pro bono,
No.
and I don't think it should come out of the Muzzy fund. And that the reason he wrote this was to protect us from
Right.
ourselves changing things around. I think it's friendly enough when someone gets to the committee. I think I probably said this 6 or 7 times already. If you want to add a few words in and change a perfectly good, in my mind, document that's legal and we paid for it, the town paid for it, I'm going to vote against changing it. But I think both of them are friendly enough. I don't see what the big difference would be. The only reason I don't want to change this is because it's a done deal. It's done by our town attorney. And we've talked about what the committee will do. And without us trying to control every single little thing that goes on with this, I
But
mean,
that's what we're doing in this document.
I don't think we need to.
In this document is trying, all requests shall be made in writing, giving full details of the purpose of the request. This committee is gonna determine that. They're gonna have to ask questions to get that. Somebody who is hurting at the time could perhaps not be clear enough to do this. And needs to be helped through this.
And I would expect the committee members would help them do this.
Well, then we should
just-
say
or
that.
just-
Hey, what you said. Assist and help, and.
Aid and
Aid
assist.
and assist, it should say that.
You wanna put that in? So
I wanna put it
so
in
I'm
a
not
way-
here till 10 o'clock deciding which document is better, because they both say the same thing, in my mind. Put it in.
I would like to put that
Where would you like to put it
in.
in?
And I don't wanna hear that this needs to go back to Paul and
Well-
have it approved.
Right.
Before you don't want to hear that, let me tell you, you use the phrase aid and assist. There's a whole lot more ramifications than just sitting here chatting with somebody about how to fill out a form. And if we put in aid and assist, we're changing the color of this document significantly.
I'm not sure that's true.
I know you're not sure, Sue, I'm pointing out what I'm understanding from
You
my
want,
experience. with
you
this.
want this to go forward to the next generation. It has to be worthy of it to go forward to the next
I mean,
generation. And I
he
think
had-
there are things that make this a non-charitable document. I'm not saying mine is right, I'm not saying it's wrong. But I find things that I would find objectionable if somebody came to me and asked me for help, and I'd say, stop right there.
So what you're saying then is, if we were to take this document and somewhere, which you guys haven't identified yet, put in the phrase aid and assist, that would make you happy in this,
Yes, that would make me happy.
would that make you happy?
I'd like to hear some other phrase than aid and assist.
Well, the problem with
Come
aid and
up
assist
with
is it's
another one?
the legal phrase.
How did we manage this before?
I think simple assist is better than aid.
What's that?
I think simply just putting the
Assist.
term assist in there is better
That
than
may be
saying
better than aid and
because
assist.
aid comes at the end.
That sounds good.
If
Aid
you just to
means-
try to break the ties.
If they don't give you the money, we will. Or that could be interpreted
One
100 different
suggestion.
ways. It's not that big of a deal or that complicated.
I mean, he even goes
Unbelievable.
into defining the word poor or worthy, and really questions the poor and worthy. And I didn't even wondered why that was even done, which was number 4 and number 5.
Those are the words in the bequest.
I know that.
Yeah.
I'm trying to honor
And
that.
trying to counter that, because I'm sure people would say, well, I'm worthy, or I'm poor.
Well, let's speak to that for a
so-
second, since you brought it up. and I talked to Paul Gillis about this, his choice of what he did with the worthy. Look down at number 5. What he has done, and I think really brilliantly, is taken the worthy out of saying the person is worthy and changed it to the request is worthy. And he gives us examples. So treat the term as requiring a finding that the applicant is in extreme need of heat, potable water, food, or housing. We're not saying the person is or is not worthy. We're saying that this request is worthy, as opposed to, I need help paying my car bill.
How about his hospital bill? That's neither food, heat, potable water, or housing.
Are those examples or?
Yeah, these are examples.
Yeah, because that's not in here, I can't find that.
Number 5, it says here.
That doesn't mean that's all, that's
It
not.
does, it's a legal document. Whatever you put in this document is a legal document, and it goes down to the generations unless it's changed. So you have to list every possible reason why a person, and instead of trusting the fact that we picked a select board that is willing, a committee that is willing to honestly evaluate this person. And say, well, he has water, he has food, he has housing, he has heat, but he just lost his leg.
So you would add medical care to this?
No, I would leave that out.
What would you leave out?
I would leave out both of those two clauses.
Well, I noticed you left them both out on yours. I think that leaving in the legal definition of what's going on, what is your definition of poor? Understand that these are the terms that the original
SEFCA
lawyers.
doesn't resort to the,
We're not SEPCA.
I know we're not, I'm giving you an example. They don't say who's needy, they evaluate a person and they don't say, well, we got this checklist, they don't. And that's not the only organization I'm talking about, I'm just giving it as one example. They don't evaluate a person according to a checklist, they evaluate a person according to the need that that person has. And that's what I'm saying that the Muzzy Fund should do. Evaluate a person according to the need they have. And since we have 3 people willing to go out on a limb and interview this person, we have to have 3 people that we trust to make that adequate without federal guidelines.
We are constrained by law to do what was in the bequest.
Yes.
And the bequest uses these terms.
That's right, and it doesn't define them.
The attorney did,
Well, that's one attorney doing that.
and that's our attorney.
But that doesn't mean we have to do everything our attorney says. We can make
If we have,
evaluations.
if we have any sense in all, we will do what our attorney recommends. For us to go against what we're paying the best guy in the state of Vermont to write.
I won't
It seems-
vote for this.
All right, okay, I accept that, you won't vote for that. There is one thing, though, that I would like to ask you all about, moving back to the bottom one. What is not addressed, we did not address it before, and I did not therefore provide it to Gillis when we were putting all the pieces together. Confidentiality for the individual applicant.
Yes, it should be definitely
Yeah.
confidential.
How?
When we have an open meeting where things are open to the public, we don't have his name or her name mentioned.
You think that's enough? You just got through telling us everybody in town was everybody's shoe size for crying out loud.
That's right. What does that have to do with it?
Then how do you keep somebody's confidentiality in a community that is now televised?
We don't publish it.
We don't publish what?
We don't publish who it is
How do you discuss it?
in closed session. And then you bring it
Which
out
closed
as,
session?
as a generic, whatever you want to call it.
Well, that's the-
Don't trap me with words.
This is the trick, well, it's the law. We're tricky because as a select board, this goes back to paragraph 1 about accepting the funds. As a select board, as we meet, it's open with very few exceptions.
And one exception is hurting somebody by revealing information. And so we don't hurt that person by discussing the very specifics amongst the committee that we appoint and identify him in an executive session.
So
We don't read all his or her problems and illnesses in public. We just say, we've decided to administer the Muzzy Fund. And the Muzzy Fund is not public funds, it's not taxpayers' funds. We don't have to tell the town.
When we
The town
accept,
doesn't want to know because they don't want their needs.
paragraph 1, when we accept the trusteeship of this, we as an open municipal body run into little problems like we have to be open. When you're dealing with private funds, we talked about this weeks ago, And it's a tough call, it's a tough call.
It is a tough.
Because there is no provision, I've been over it a dozen times, within the open meeting law for us managing private funds, even when they're given to us. But we still have to balance the open meeting law with not hurting the other individual or embarrassing the other individual. It's a tough call. And that committee that we are about to appoint, that we've already appointed, they have to comply with the open meeting law as well.
That's right.
Which means they're going to have a whole bunch of things that they may not realize just yet. So how do we maintain confidentiality? Do we not have to follow the open meeting law when the 4 or 5 of us are gathered in support of this particular fund?
We don't have to mention the name. And we don't have to mention identifying factors. We can just mention that we have reviewed the need of this person. And we have to review the need of this person, and that should be, at least the specifics of this person shall be private. Because it says very clearly, when you're talking about executive session, you only can go into executive session when what you discuss would hurt the parties involved. And this would hurt the parties
And
involved.
we can't make decisions
We
in.
can't make decisions in executive
We
session,
cannot.
but we can review the
Right.
recommendations of the committee, and we can say we agree or disagree, and then we can come out of this executive session and say that we've decided not to disperse funds in this case, or we've decided to disperse funds in this case.
I think that's a big question to go ask Paul Gillies around confidentiality. Because he really did not address that.
There's a, I'm trying to, the definition for the meetings is a gathering of a quorum of the members of a public body for the purpose of discussing the business of the public body or for the purpose of taking action. So that's the meeting that we're having right now.
Right.
The conduct of that, how we get out of that, is some very, very carefully constructed guidelines about how to do this. And the guidelines derive from municipal policy and municipal business. That when you look at them and you parse them, it's very difficult to identify how best to manage a semi-private fund. Even though the money was given to the town, these guidelines are written for municipal policy. And we're trying to squeeze kind of a square peg into a round hole. And there's a lot of friction and there's a lot of difficulty with it. And no matter how many times you beat it, there's still that little problem that the select boards were not designed for this. Rephrase that. The rules governing the select board were not designed for this.
Yeah, I mean, HIPAA is a biggie.
Well, here's another one. That we've even gotten to that part yet.
Yeah, but we're not. We can't even come to an agreement on how to disperse this stuff.
The more complicated we make it,
You guys are making it
Further-
complicated.
I am,
Yes. These two are very similar.
they're very
I don't
similar.
know
except
what,
for-
I'm
except
ready,
for-
if you wanna change it, because I don't wanna sit here personally for 2 or 3 more meetings to try to give away or to assist people in need, arguing over $3,000, which isn't gonna be there that long. It's not my money, it's not the select board's money. It's not even the town of Jamaica's money. And we're treating it like $6 million, and we're afraid someone's gonna get it that doesn't deserve it. It should be real easy to disperse this. We have a legal document, we have some amendments. I mean, we can figure out how to give them the check. I don't think we have to tell who we're giving it to.
No, well, we agree, everybody agrees on that.
So what's the big deal?
None to me. I just don't want to limit a person's ability to get this check because he doesn't fit a specific outline when it's a person who's truly in need. Or she. Or them.
So right now, you're saying you do not want to add public potable water, food, housing, or medical. You do not want to add that on there.
I would leave 4 and 5 out.
Well, we're not going to leave 4 and 5 out. We're not gonna, the lawyer's not making these recommendations because that's what he felt like at the moment.
4 quotes a statute for one thing,
Yeah,
and I'm not gonna go dig that out.
I don't have to, I got a copy of it right here.
But we don't have to go by federal thresholds for what 4 is. That's not our purpose.
But
We don't have to. There's nothing that says that we have to follow a federal guideline to say the person who is obviously sitting on the floor floundering, you don't meet the federal
It's
guidelines,
not, it's really state, but.
state guidelines. guidelines, whatever guidelines.
US Department of Health and Human Services.
We have a sense of guidelines in our minds.
We may have a sense of guidelines in our mind, but we're writing a legal document to maintain some kind of consistency over time on how we disperse funds that were given to us for this purpose. We have to take it seriously. We
I
can't
do take it
just
seriously.
willy-nilly throw stuff out
I do
because you
take
don't like it.
seriously.
Excuse me, can I be recognized?
Sure.
If I could
You're
just-
for the camera
I'm
here.
sorry, my name is Rebecca, I'm a new resident of Jamaica. If I could just make a suggestion that in addition to those federal guidelines and poverty level and everything, just add or other extreme need. That would cover instances which your advisory committee could actually evaluate, and you could trust their judgment on that. Just be adding a little phrase. Because I think what your attorney was trying to do was give you examples, concrete
Right.
examples that would be guidelines in order to determine need. But obviously, there are other exigencies. Apparently, one of the previous recipients of this grant was for medical bills or something like that. Well, that's not on there, but it's certainly an extreme need, and I think that that would cover the extreme urgency that this fund is designed to deal with, while having, leaving that discretion and that evaluation with your advisory board.
Yes, I believe that was just some examples.
One
Is
of
that
the,
what you mean?
yeah, on that topic, one of the conversations that happened with Paul and I were trying to hash these kinds of things out. We try to get to be as objective as possible. And the tricky part about it is an extreme, it's a subjective call. And when he's trying to give us some guidelines that will go, again, through the ages, without somebody saying, well, geez, you know, this is extreme in my book, perhaps not so extreme in somebody else's book. He's just trying to protect us down the road with a document that we can rely on. And this, it's not a perfect document, it's not a perfect situation. The laws really don't reflect this sort of thing. This isn't municipal business, so we're really trapped. But he's trying to produce something that will give us guidance decades down the road to get this job done. So,
I move we accept Paul Gillies' guidelines.
except that we all agreed to leave out the member of the select board. That we all agreed to.
On the Beyond Committee?
Yeah. Well, we agreed to that before. And we all agreed to the 3 members, but not the select board. So we moved to have that amended.
No, I don't do that.
You want to leave the select board in it?
No. I don't even want to make the motion if we're not gonna vote on it. I'm gonna threaten you to table it.
Okay. Do you want
I'm
to
not
table it?
asking to table it, but I'm not gonna sit here and talk about almost 2 identical things for another hour. If you make the changes and then you go on and come up with this confidentiality thing.
We didn't do that. There's
So
no.
you guys wandered off into that.
That was a question I put. If we don't want to address confidentiality,
I think that we can never make this a perfect
No, I
document.
think we have a document.
And there's always going to be movement in it, and I think when the people, the 3 committee people work on it, they're going to ask on their own, have you gone to SEPCA? Have you done this? Have you done that? I think that we have to rely on people's humanity around that. So I think we need to trust the people that we're selecting, as this is the most protective that we can have it for our board, but we also need to be aware that it's not a perfect document and that there's going to be maneuverability inside of it. So I would go with this one.
with the exception that we all agreed to not have a select board member on the committee.
Okay, I,
So would you make a motion to accept it as, with that amendment?
okay.
I think you could just do it with that out of there.
That's what I'm saying, we can just
We don't
scratch
have to
that.
vote on it, just like it's not in there.
Well, we're signing this. so we have to fix it. I'll get them to fix it
I do
tomorrow.
think we can trust our 3 people to go
Can
through.
I say something before we? I'm just back to the first thing. I don't know if this makes any difference to you or doesn't. You said Paul wrote it. But I'm looking at this document where they gave you the town the money. And it says J.H. Muzzy, $3,000. And it says down here, the other one gave the money was Elnora J. Muzzy, $2,000. And the way it was written on Paul Gillies was that it was James Muzzy, J.H. Muzzy. But it was 2 people, not 1 person. If you don't want to change that,
Well, do you think it'll affect the,
I don't know what it will affect.
the effectiveness of the granting the money?
I wouldn't think.
Or is it something?
I'm just
personal?
bringing it up as a point that
I think both of the documents ask the select board to act as
Yes.
trustees for both of them.
Yes, that part's true, sure. I'm just
Yep.
mentioning.
If it's something that's going to keep you up at
No,
night,
it
we'll
isn't.
change it for you. Well, did you?
Did you make a motion?
No, I haven't done it, so
Want
you
to?
want me to go ahead?
Yes.
To, what, to strike that?
Just to leave the part out about a
Just,
select board
yeah.
member.
Remove the select board member.
Yeah, so that will now read, number 2, the request shall be directed to a 3-person committee to review the application, interview the applicant before making a recommendation to the select board on whether to allocate funds in each instance. That's the way it now reads. It leaves out including at least 1 member of the select board. That's the way you want it to read.
Yes.
I'll second that.
Any further discussion?
You willing to take an amendment to add or other extreme need to number 5?
I will
No, we're
not.
talking about this.
Well, she's making a motion to accept this as this amendment. Are you asking her to amend her amendment? I mean,
No.
amend her motion?
No, so we're just voting on your amendment?
Yeah.
To accept this as it is.
No, we're voting on her amendment to leave out the
Yeah, we
select.
have to vote on the amendment first and then go back to the document as amended.
All in favor of amending the item number 2 to exclude the requirement for a select board member, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions? It passes. Now, that's out. Okay.
I'd like to make an amendment to add or other extreme needs at the end of number 5.
I'll second that.
This is now reading, worthy is a moral concept which raises questions beyond the jurisdiction of the town select board. But in the context of the Muzzy Fund, the select board shall treat that term as requiring a finding that the applicant is in extreme need of heat, potable water, food, or housing, and your addition was or extreme medical need,
Or other extreme need.
or other extreme need.
Perhaps urgent need?
Might be a better word.
I would lobby against that because it's way too subjective and this opens the door. We're trying to make this Muzzy Fund work for people.
We're also trusting the committee to
Right.
evaluate this and not bring somebody who just wants to buy balloons.
Right.
So if we say or other extreme or urgent need, then we're giving the 3-man committee the jurisdiction to evaluate this person's degree of moral worthiness.
I'll give you a copy of this. So you are now making a motion, and she has seconded it. Worthy is a moral concept that raises questions beyond the jurisdiction of the town select board, but in the context of Muzzy Fund, select board shall treat that term as requiring a finding that the applicant is in extreme need of heat, potable water, food or housing, or other extreme need. We have a motion, we have a second. Any further discussion? The only thing I would add is I'm against making it that wide open, but that's just me. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed?
No.
I vote no.
So we-
Okay, so that leaves number 5 as it once was. Do you still want to put this policy document to a vote?
Okay, I will.
Okay,
So I move that we accept this document as amended with the amendment.
for number 2 with the select board issue.
With, yes.
Yeah, gotcha.
Second.
I have a second. Any further discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed?
No,
We have one opposed and 3 ayes. Oh, I didn't say aye. Aye, okay. No, motion carries. Okay, so now we have some guidelines.
I'm not gonna, I can try to remember
I'm
the name
good.
of those motions.
Judy made both of them. He made the motion that failed, and she made the 2 that passed.
I got it.
Okay. You want a couple minutes to catch up?
I don't want the job.
I know. I'll tell you what, in the end, let's just take a 5-minute break. Just a quick 5-minute break, you can get caught up. We reconvene, it is about. All right. Back to the session. Ladies and gentlemen, we are back on the agenda. The next item is to hear, number 12, discuss and possibly hear an individual's application for the Muzzy Fund with a possible vote, which we added.
if you'd like, you can move 13 up in front of 12.
No, let's get 12. Let's try to stick to some kind of a format here. So, given the guidelines we have, who is presenting the case for this individual?
It's already been presented.
Well, not in front of us, as a board. We're taking it up tonight for the first time. No, there's been a lot of presentations, but we are now, as a select board, addressing this individual. And we need it, in theory, he should be presenting himself or herself. That's not happened.
He has presented himself.
We had conversations, but he hasn't presented himself to the board. So, what maybe we should do is you should make a motion, if you so desire, requesting that the select board ignore the guidelines that we just passed in order to facilitate this particular individual.
You can make that motion.
I'm not gonna make that motion. I don't believe we should ignore the guidelines.
Okay, I move that we ignore the previous guidelines and discuss the individual application for Muzzy.
Do I hear a second? I don't hear a second. Therefore, that motion fails. So we're going to continue to follow the guidelines as we just passed them.
And what do you want to do?
Well, the guidelines say that the request should be made in writing, giving full details. Now, understanding that we've all talked about this a number of times out of order,
2 special meetings.
and a number of, a couple special meetings, we've got a lot of the information, but we don't have all of it. We only have the pieces that you presented to us, but not the full, the details of the purpose of the request and the kinds of things that needed to be.
First of all, if we go, I
Go ahead.
can't believe this. If we go through all of that, he's gonna go through in front of the committee. And I thought that we had talked in, am I out of order if I start talking about the special meetings?
Technically,
Can't
because
identify.
those are in executive sessions.
You can't
Yeah, the
identify.
minutes are taken and it's public knowledge.
Not executive session,
Sessions, the other one, so.
We had a lot of discussion around this
Couldn't
circumstances.
we just disperse the amount we talked about?
All we need to do
Or
is,
we gotta have them go through this whole thing?
that's up to the board. We can
That's just
go
what you
ahead.
just voted to say. You just voted to say that we have to put him through the new guidelines that we just passed.
I didn't know anything about him.
That's right, nobody seconded.
Talk about the guidelines.
We made a motion, and nobody seconded it,
Right.
nobody voted on it. So therefore, it's
I didn't vote
established.
on it because I don't feel that that's needed.
You don't feel that,
As we've had this discussion about this individual several times already.
and pass the motion to actually disperse the
Yeah,
funds.
But
You can't say you passed the motion because it was an illegal motion, and according to our attorney, that has to be treated as a non.
That's how that.
That didn't happen.
I don't want to get into mixing that. So I vote that we disperse the funds that we originally talked about to this individual.
I'm just gonna second it so we can have some discussion.
Okay.
I forgot what I wanted to ask. Do we need to have another meeting to talk about this again? That's why
It's
it's
not in line.
But then you've been the presenter. We haven't had a chance to ask you any questions. You've given a presentation routinely out of line, so we didn't really get a chance to fully vet this. So we as a select board only know the pieces that you've been able to squeeze in during other issues.
Oh, I know enough.
We
But I
may,
just,
we don't know
I
about other
don't wanna
resources.
be out of order.
Mm.
And that's a real predicament for me right now.
It is a
And you know what, I
predicament.
don't really appreciate it,
What's the predicament?
being in this predicament we're in right now, about this individual.
This
On
individual-
camera.
this
On
individual-
camera,
Well, we can have an executive session.
I don't wanna have another executive session.
Well, then what would you like to do? I made a motion. Are you seconding it?
I already did second, and that's why we're talking about it, again.
Do you have a predicament?
Yeah, it is a predicament.
Any further discussion? We have a motion on the table, have a second? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed?
No.
Abstentions?
Yes.
Have one abstention, 2 noes, and an aye does not carry. Would you like to have me put it on agenda for next time?
No.
Okay. The next item of business is,
Wait, before you move on.
sure,
Can we have the committee that has already been formed
sure,
to speak with this person?
that would be my next thing to
And
suggest.
present this to us at the next meeting?
That would be the idea, is to put it on the next meeting, and in the interim, have the 3 persons do
Right.
the proper bidding.
Right.
That would be my
Start that-
expectation.
Start that process.
Make myself a note here, so I don't forget it. And the next select board meeting is going to be in August 14th, maybe? August 14th, I think.
Maybe a moot point by
Okay, so the next order,
He's fine.
the next order of business is number 13, to readdress the question of sponsoring a VLCT training on the open meeting law with new information. You told me that you have some new information about the funding source, is that correct?
then. Yes.
Okay,
I have even newer information that I just got today.
okay.
There's a man named Jim Barlow, who used to be the lead attorney at VLCT 5 years ago. He's now giving courses to various municipalities, an hour-and-a-half course, which he's not charging for. He has offered me 3 possible dates, October 24th, 25th, or 26th. He also has one right now in Wilmington on 9/26, if we want to do that instead of holding our own.
And that information is in service of, you wanting to go to that meeting, to that class, is that what you're
Of
asking?
course.
No, are you asking to go to the meeting, is that what
I'm
you're asking?
asking to have the meeting. I don't need to ask to go to the meeting.
That's true, because there's no cost, so you want us, I'm
I
sorry.
would like the town to have the course, to have him down, and he suggested possible dates
Okay.
in his full schedule of October 24th, 25th, and 26th. 6 o'clock is the right time for him.
And that's for select board?
And it's for anyone.
Oh, okay.
What are
What's
the
that
days?
fellow's name again?
What are the days?
His name is Jim Barlow.
24th, 25th, 26th of October is Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday.
Thursday.
That might be something that even the planning commission and all of the
Anyone?
different authorized
Yeah,
organizations of the town.
what specifically is the topic?
Anyone could
Open
come.
meeting law.
Yeah,
The open meeting law?
but I mean, especially
Sure.
those.
He was,
The
again,
planning commission is definitely interested, and we discussed it at our last meeting.
Okay.
He again was the head lead attorney at VLCT 5 years ago, until 5 years ago.
Well, what's a good date?
Tuesday, Wednesday, or Thursday.
Tuesday, Wednesday, or Thursday?
Historically,
What is it, in October?
Yeah.
October
How about,
24th,
would
25th.
the planning commission like to find out if they could, what dates are good for them, or? I mean, we got some time before we make a decision on it.
Well, he's penciled me into the schedule.
I suggest we make the decision tonight, not everybody's gonna be able to
Okay.
attend any given night anyways, and just pick one and
All right,
I
It's
agree.
enough time to-
Sounds like he's a busy guy.
I would lobby against Wednesday because I got fire department stuff on Wednesdays, but Tuesdays or Thursdays would work for me.
That's true for
Tuesday.
me
That's
too.
a Tuesday.
okay.
Tuesday.
So we're looking Tuesday the 24th. You guys are gonna be there.
Yeah, but I'm gonna need some help tweaking this.
Yeah, I'll help you. I wrote some notes along the
Hopefully
way.
I get fired.
We may have to fire you, nothing, just because of your,
Are we taking minutes and on the board?
no, we're not losing that. So, the question then is, I didn't hear, was this in the form of a motion or just information?
Just the information.
Would you like to make a motion?
I make a motion that we have Jim Barlow present an open meeting law event, which would be an hour and a half, according to him, on October 24th, is that Tuesday?
Yes.
Yeah.
At 6 PM. I guess in lieu of the planning commission.
Would those guys meet on Mondays? Don't you meet on Mondays?
We
Monday.
meet Mondays.
Yeah, so it wouldn't be interfering with
On
that.
Tuesday, okay. And now we publicize this so that as many people who want to attend can attend. He would like to condense his presentation, well, that's not in the motion. Never mind.
No, just tell me when, I've got
The days of.
motion made to have Jim Barlow present on open meeting law.
Tuesday, October 24th,
At 6 o'clock.
2017, at 6 o'clock.
If I might, I don't wanna make this an emotional issue, but, did I say that, emotional issue? Never mind. Can we not set the venue until we get a better sense of how many people are interested?
Absolutely,
Because I think that there's a sufficient interest, we just move it to the town hall,
absolutely,
rather than, because this is a little tight.
absolutely.
So we won't put it in the motion, but just amongst us, when you talk to him, I'm assuming you're gonna talk to him,
Yes.
that we'll save the venue until we get a better sense of how many
Yes.
people. So perhaps at the end of September, we can set the venue.
Okay, but the motion on the floor doesn't have to include that.
That's correct, it does not, I just wanna make sure that we get that. I
Is
mean,
it
we could
second?
include it. Hmm?
Did it get second?
No.
Got a second?
Okay, motion made by.
Motion by Joel, seconded by.
Okay.
Okay, so the, motion, we have a second, any further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions? Motion passes. All right, so you were gonna do that?
I'll take care of it.
Okay.
I would suggest that we invite other towns to join us. Because he said that it's sometimes, it's better if we can combine towns.
Sure, I agree with that. The only concern I have is the number of bodies.
Well, I wouldn't invite every other town. I would invite towns.
Discriminate?
I would discriminate.
That's not camera.
Discriminate for
Only
towns
the
in
ones we
in
like.
Wardsboro.
Yeah, I think adjacent towns is useful. That's fine, however that works out. If we get a mob, we'll move to the hall.
Right.
All right.
Or Yankee Stadium.
So,
You have to include towns that are VLTC members,
that's a very good point.
because if they're not, they have to pay a fee.
That's a good point. If they're not the LCT members, so when you talk with
We
them.
need everybody's not a.
He doesn't
He's
care.
putting it on for free.
He doesn't care if the he's not with the VLCT. He
Oh.
retired from
So
the
it's
VLCT.
all-
Oh, there you go.
He's doing this privately in person.
Okay,
Wow.
then that meets the point.
But if they want to pay.
Good point. Let it happen, babe.
We can have a can,
All right.
like you guys do, right in the middle of the
A
highway.
booth. I'll let you borrow a booth.
Okay, ladies.
I would
Okay,
make it-
so-
I just promised not to leave with the booth.
We have, number 14 is time for public concerns. I have a request from one of the town residents, but first I'd ask the existing audience for public concerns. Any hands? Okay, so I'll move on.
This is a public concern.
This is a public concern, yes, she met with us, she couldn't make it to the meeting, but she left me some information. She is, asking the town, asking us to consider implementing a meals and rooms tax as a funding revenue source.
Who is?
Helena Worthen is the lady who talked to me.
In the state or in the
For
town?
town, she lives here.
Isn't the town considering this, the state considering this right now?
I don't know what this
Don't we
is.
have one?
Massachusetts, I mean, I'm not Massachusetts, Manchester has one.
Yes.
Well, an extra?
Yeah,
And
and
it's not
Brattleboro
truly a rooms
might
and meals
have one.
tax, it's an
It's a 1%.
1%
Exactly.
something, excise,
Yeah.
I don't know what it's called. But it's
Well-
not a rooms and meals tax, it's
Exactly.
layer on top of the rooms.
I think what the
Right.
state is considering is putting this tax on the Airbnb, because the hotels and restaurants already have this tax in the state, but Airbnb, I think, does not, and that's what they're considering in the legislature.
Her suggestion, when I talked to her, was that it would be another 1% tax, and your point is exactly what I got from the conversation, is they're calling it, she gave me the form that says meals and rooms tax, but in fact it becomes a 1% additional sales tax, doesn't it, for businesses like yours?
Right, exactly. And to Joel's point, the state already does tax a rooms and meals tax. Airbnb is facilitating that. They're at this point, the only home rental service agency, whatever, that does that.
Yeah.
But they are providing rooms and meals tax to the state.
That clarifies one of the questions, 'cause I
But
believe-
this would be in addition to the existing rooms and meals tax, at 1% tax, that's
What's the word for it? Local tax?
local tax, right?
Yeah.
My question to be to her, and I mean, I think she's got I don't, being a business owner, there is some discussion of whether it actually hurts or helps, blah, 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 but I'm not quite sure where she would be coming from. Is this to help offset the existing tax rate, or does she have additional programs that need to be funded? I mean, I'm not quite sure
She didn't expand on that, and for whatever reason couldn't make it here tonight, that's why she asked me to make the presentation. But she's saying, I think she rents out rooms, and apparently if it's that sort of deal, maybe she's not paying it because of the B&B part. I don't know the answer, she couldn't make it, I'm just throwing it. I told her what I would do is I'd present it, put it on the table. If there was interest, there's a lot of research to be done before we can get to this point. And there's a lot of complications every time you start messing with the local taxes. So the question is whether or not the mood of the select board is that this get pursued, or thank you very much, we've got enough taxing going on.
Well, we don't have to decide anything right now.
No, we don't, but just the idea, and whether or not we wanna to go do all the research to chase that stuff down, and it's complicated, according to her. And I'm sure you probably got a sense of how that works.
what's required to get it implemented.
No, to get a 1% tax?
I don't know, but I imagine you're right, it's not something you just say yes.
Yeah, it's got some, yeah.
And you gotta figure out how you're gonna collect it, who's gonna collect it.
It's quite easy to collect, I think, and it's already set up that way. I mean, I know I pay sales tax, and it's just on the same document, whether or not I need to pay another 1% sales tax.
Do you have this other document? Does this look familiar? It says, meals and room tax return across the top. Does that look familiar to you?
You want,
Actually, I'm not paying rooms and meals sales tax, I'd be only paying sales.
So it would be something, yeah, that was
Oh, rooms and meals, I'm only paying the state, the 6% sales tax, not the rooms and meals tax.
well, close, Stratton has it, Brattleboro, Manchester, like you said. If we were interested, we could ask maybe the clerk at Stratton.
One of the conversation pieces, following up on what you're just saying, is the other agencies, other towns that have this, have a bigger tourist traffic tax base.
Right.
We're talking about Stratton and Stowe, Brattleboro, Manchester, Killington. These are big tax bases.
Dover.
So that 1% is gonna be borne on the backs of the tourists. In Jamaica, the 1% probably will be primarily on the backs of the residents.
Or it will not generate that significant.
Or it won't make it worth our while.
We're all going to New
It
Hampshire
may
anyways.
not.
Got a camera going. But you're right, so there may not be sufficient,
Okay.
That's why, my initial question of, was this to kind of offset some of the existing tax
Just
rate, or to add on additional programs? or-
yeah.
I could let you read the notes, just wanted to know if we wanted to take a look into collecting it. It's pretty much
My
all she
thought would
has.
be she's brought it up, and if it's serious enough, she should come back again.
I'll mention that. Well, I think part of this, truthfully, when you take a look at it, and I had this conversation with Terry right after I got this paperwork, our municipal taxes went down, not a lot, penny or whatever it is, but it's still, we're holding our own pretty well. And this will have nothing to do with school taxes, and that's what's going up. So whether it makes that much of a difference to us or not is really unknown. But you've got some good points on
I
that.
think the simplest solution is to find out how many B&Bs there are in the town before you even explore that.
Oh, there's a lot of exploring that, and whether or not it applies to, you know, just our little town here or the entire, you know, outliers, the other homes and the other things, and people up further up. And I don't know the answer to those things. I don't know anything about, this is a shot across my bow I've never seen before.
Did you say she had hoped to be here? Or?
She said she couldn't make it. I don't know if she really wanted to or not. She said she couldn't make it. She might have hoped.
That's what I meant.
Yeah, I know. But I don't know the answer to that. But I did tell her I believe she's bringing it to our attention. Okay, so it's brought to our attention. The next item is, it's our favorite item.
I would like to move that we go into executive session on a personnel issue.
Do I have a second? I will second that one. So put me down as a second for that one. And I suspect, this is a personnel item, that coming out of this session, there will not be any votes taken that need to be shared with the public. So those of you who have been patiently waiting, thank you very much. And we will, if I have a motion to go into executive session, we'll take a 5-minute break so we can get the cameras and stuff put together, and then we'll go into executive session. All in favor? Wait, did I get a second? I seconded it, yeah. Any further discussion? All in favor, say aye.
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 Aye. Any opposed?
Abstain.
Abstained, so I got 3 ayes and an abstention. We are pausing for the executive session. Thank you all for coming.